இற்றை பறை கொள்வோம் அன்று காண் கோவிந்தா எற்றைக்கும் ஏழேழு பிறவிக்கும் முந்தனோடு உற்றாமே ஆவோம் உனக்கேனம் ஆடச் செய்வோம் மற்றேனம் காமங்கள் மாற்றேலோர் எம்பாவாய். An excerpt from the 29th Pasuram of Saint Andal, seeking to be reborn again and again and to be renewed, not just for one time, but for 7 lives, over 7 births. She says, I want to be reborn with the energy of the parai or the drum. A prayer for all of us today as we continue to seek renewal. Vanakkam and Namaskaram. Natyarambha welcomes you to Punarnava, finding pathways to renewal and rejuvenation, a 4-day series of conversations, of learning from the life stories of renewal of great artists who will be speaking with us here. I'm Ananda Shankar Jayant, your host for Punarnava Facebook Live at Natyarambha, and I will be in conversation with renowned artists, art entrepreneurs, art curators, philosophers, speakers, writers, and many more. This is a 45-minute session here on Facebook Live at Natyarambha, at the end of which speakers will take a couple of questions from you, the audience. If you remember, Punarnava opened a couple of days ago with the iconic Dr. Sonal Mansingh speaking in her session titled Resurrection Through Dance. And our takeaway was words and concepts like courage of conviction, tenacity, resilience. Yesterday, we had the effervescent Rama Bharadwaj. And the takeaway for me was to expand beyond labels. And today, we have with us a diva who wears many hats, with a lot of feathers too in it. Artist, dancer, choreographer, actor, writer, speaker, arts entrepreneur, cultural activist. She who has a multi-storied career, a career that's been on stage, off stage, on camera, off camera. The one and only Dr. Anita Ratnam. Welcome to Punarnava, Anita. We're really, really honored to have you here.
Thank you, Ananda. I'm delighted.
But before I set the stage for you to take over, I must share a little backstory. If you remember, we met many years ago. You were this diva, then too, a senior at Kalakshetra. I was a pesky pre-teen boarder. You were a day scholar. And I remember this fantastic image that still is there in my mind, where both of us, I remember, sharing a mirror in the thatched roof green room of Kalakshetra, where you smiled at me imperiously. We were both getting ready for Sri Rama Vanagamanam of Rukmini Devi Arundale's iconic 6-part Ramayana series. You were Kausalya. Maragavan teacher was putting some white in your hair to make you look a little old. Preeta Reddy, your good friend and my good friend of Apollo, was Sumitra. And yes. I, along with many others, were doing the Nagar Alankaram for Rama's Pattabhishek. After that, that's a memory that's remained in my mind for a very long time. Later, we have been friends. Both of us have, developed a deep friendship. You've been a mentor for me at the Natyakala conference, especially Ramayana and performing arts and dance matters. We both share coffee conversations at 6 a.m. in the morning where we laugh at ourselves. I remember that you left Kalakshetra, went on to be an extraordinary Bharatanatyam and Mohiniyattam dancer. And then you went away to America, and then we heard of you. We heard of you being in television, in theater. You were a producer. You brought to us the Festival of India. You anchored it. You brought to us so many interesting memories. But suddenly, in the year 1990, you gave it all up. Some disruption. It completely changed your life. So tell us, what is it that brought you back from that high of New York and the media there?
Wow. Okay. 1990, exactly 30 years ago. Thank you, Ananda, because it's made me dig deep into myself. It was a very, very difficult time. I didn't give it all up. It was actually taken away from me. And, there is a saying now, in hindsight, I can say that I became too successful for my marriage. And it is one of those things where you actually work in partnership with a spouse to create this amazingly pioneering television broadcasting business. And then because you are on the screen for 10 years every week, you attain a certain kind of aura and a certain kind of mythic, Vishwarupa maybe in people's minds. Your spouse is being introduced as, oh, Anita's husband. So these are moments that, well, it grew beyond control. So I was part of what I call now a scorched earth policy, that if he couldn't have it, I wouldn't have it either. So the business and the entire dream of 10 years that we built together was taken away from me. But in 1990, the decision to return to India and not stay in New York was my reaction as a mother, not as a woman, not as a professional. My son was 3 months old. I had a newborn baby. My daughter was 2.5 years old. And my first instinct was, as a mother, they need to be safe. So while New York had been this amazing place, great breeding ground to toughen me up and create my work ethic, it was not a place for me to raise children as a single mother, and also running between lawyers and all the other trauma that goes with it. So it was automatic. Where will my children be safe? Home. My amma was there, my father was there, my grandmother was there, and my sister. So it was a multi-generational home with great positivity that I brought my children back to. They were too young, so they were safe, but I was traumatized. And so that was a real turning point. When I was 20, I had a wonderful career as a solo performing artist, which I again gave up. I gave that up because I just felt there was more to life than just the next gig. And so 1990 was a time from which I had to start all over again with a clean slate.
You came back.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. One of the things Ananda, what I wanted to say to the audience is, I was numb. I was really numb. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want to do. And that is also a starting point. You know clearly what you don't want to do. And I did not want to go back to dance class where my guru was waiting, because I really felt I had to find another way.
That's interesting, because normally in a crisis, you always try to fall back on the known. You always do that, isn't it? But you have, like you just said, you chose to step away from 2 careers: your dance, which you had left behind in India, and your television persona and your production and all that, which you left behind in New York, and you forged pathway 3. Now, you reinvented yourself. You chose an unknown path. So was that more than a tad difficult?
It was hugely difficult, because the most automatic things that my parents said, oh, you want to start a dance school? You want to start teaching? Shall we build you something? Do you want to get married again? They didn't have the answers that I was looking for. And yet I came from a family of pioneering thinkers, of institution builders, where everybody on both sides of the family had done such radical things. And I'm thinking, God, is this all you have as a choice for me? So no, I'm not listening to you. You just take care of the children. It was very difficult, Ananda, but I knew that I had to bring all the strands of my training together. My dance, my degree in English literature, my years in Kalakshetra with rigorous training and, dance theory, my MA in theater, start trying to bring together those strands and find a new way of communicating. So the first thing I did was go towards theater, go and watch theater, which is about grime and grit and so different from what the beauty of dance was. And my first venture was the phone book Nartaki. Because I
coming to that, just a minute. But before you jump into that, I was just thinking, a new path, always, for any path breaker, the new path always means hacking at the undergrowth. It means opening up the entwined canopy above you and raising a storm of dust and leaves. So when you chose this new path, just hang on to Nartaki, we're coming there. When you chose this new path, what did it unleash? What backlash did you get from the world of art, from the family?
The family is extremely practical. What they said is, if you want to do what I think you want to do, we don't understand what you want to do, but it's very clear. Don't think that there's a money plant growing there, which is just going to keep giving you, expenses. You need to plan, you need to budget, you need to be very organized in the way you do things. So think like a professional and really work like a professional. So that was very, very helpful. Now you talk about backlash. Let me tell you, my first ventures were not about creating solo work for me. I wanted to work with groups. I wanted to work with young dancers. So what did I do? Because I didn't want to teach, I put out a call. At that time, the call is not through digital media, through phone. And I called dancers and I said, I want to contract with you. I want to hire you. I want you to work with me and I'm going to pay you rehearsal money. In those days, believe me, it was unheard of to call independent dancers and pay them rehearsal money. I got backlash from many gurus who said I was corrupt, polluting and commercializing art. Now, of course, it is everybody asks for rehearsal money, but I'm talking of 1992 and 1993. So that was one kind of backlash. Then another kind of backlash was people didn't know what I was wanting to say through the work, because the known was my classical dance groups, the classical dance audience, the classical dance community. Ivlo nanna adindadema, ivlo pramadama panniyema. You did Mohiniyattam like this, you did Kathakali like this, you did this, I remember this. So I would smile and say, why are you not doing that again? I'm wanting to see you. I did it once, Ananda. Once I did it because Sudharani Raghupati said, I want you to come on this International Dance Alliance IDA platform, and I want you to do that, the famous Hindolam Tillana. Tam 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 udana dim dirana dirana dirana. That was composed by Madurai Krishnan and choreographed by Adya Lakshman. I did try it once, and I found I was not only out of breath, because there was dance stamina has to build, but even more than that, I found that there was just this, I was just so uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable. I said, okay, this is just a sign. No. So the backlash came from nobody knew how to write about my art. No critic knew how to write about my art. And many people walked out of my work. But who was ready to present me? The one person who was ready to present whatever I did was Krishna Gana Sabha. They said, no matter what you do, here is the platform. So I would, you need one or two of those windows to open. When you are not going to do your Varnam, when you're not going to do your Pushpanjali. So it was nothing that my parents could do, but these are moments that I got. And the audience, seems to know what they like. And even if the critics didn't know, the crowd slowly started coming from other streams of the live arts and the other streams of the visual arts. So
you say your life is barefoot and solo, but you are a great votary. You've been absolutely vocal votary of collaboration and empowering those around you. How do you reconcile these two ends of the spectrum, solo and collaboration? How do you reconcile them both?
I don't think of it as a dichotomy. I don't think of it as ideas in collision. Barefoot and solo is the way we came into this world, and that's the way we're going out. And I have worked on my own. I'm not great in partnerships. I'm very good in collaboration, because collaboration has a starting and an ending date. You collaborate for a certain project, you collaborate for a certain idea, and you collaborate for a certain production. And I've always believed that work with excellent people. If you pay peanuts, you'll get monkeys. So just bring the people together, respected people in their genres. Let's let everybody be a stakeholder in that. So be it the composer, the choreographer, the visual designer, the costume designer, the music composer. I looked at everybody who was not working in the classical genre, brought them in. So in a sense, I think, now, 30 years later, Ananda, if you tell me, I've worked with over 200 people. And so many of those who started off in their early years working with me have gone on to really make names for themselves, which I'm really happy about. So collaboration is not anti-solo in that sense.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway, that collaboration doesn't mean that you're anti-solo. It's fantastic. It's a great takeaway for all of us out here who are looking in this scenario to look at different ways to collaborate with each other. Thank you for that. Coming to July 2008, you had performed in the Nritya Sankhya festival that I had co-curated with Sangeet Natak Academy, a 5-day festival in which we had dealt with numbers, and yours was Panchabhuta. We had heard that your mother was very unwell, and we were not sure that you would come. Where do you get that kind of strength from, emotional and spiritual strength from?
It's the value of commitment, of giving the word. It comes from as early as when I was 9 years old, when I did my Arangetram and fell down my grandparents' home down the stairs and hurt my back terribly.
My God.
Yeah, and I scraped it. It was bleeding, and everybody said, cancel. My mother took one look at everybody. She sat me down and said, you have a commitment. You can do it. If you quit now, you will always be a quitter. And I remember that so clearly because I went through it. And in those days, an Arangetram had, after the Tilla night, you had a Korati dance, Andal dance, Tambalam dance, Pambu dance. The only thing I couldn't do with the Pambu dance, I couldn't bend and touch my head to my foot like Kumari Kamala used to do.
Right.
But that commitment, you talk of July 2008, Ananda. Yes, my mother was already had slipped into a coma with a brain tumor. We knew that would be her last week with us. But I remember many years ago, before that, when my father passed away and I was in Minneapolis. He passed away all of a sudden, and my show was opening. It was a 10-day run. It was a theater work. It was March. It was snowing. All the airports were closed. The only flight I could get out was through Chicago. But my mother said one thing very clearly. She said, if you want to come, come. You can always grieve later. Your father is gone, but you've given your word. And so many people are waiting. You can come after. And I remember that. But I did manage to come. I did manage to see her. And I did manage to go back and was back in time for the opening of the show. And I'm going to share just one more incident because this is really funny. In New York on October 6th, 1988, my son was going to be born. My water had broken. And my TV replacement, my second baby, I was very cool. The person in the studio waiting to be interviewed was Shabana Azmi. And she was coming on a gig for her film then, Madame Suzatska. The replacement to do the interview never turned up. The subways didn't work on that day. I just told my entire crew, shut up. I have gone into labor. We're going to do this for 15 minutes. No edit, nothing, start to finish. Okay, not a word. Not a word. I sat there, did the whole interview, done in 15 minutes. I'm telling you, the adrenaline was rushing through me.
My goodness, I can't believe this.
Yes, and at the end of it, I said, thank you, Shabana, I'm going to have a baby. And she
must.
No, she hasn't forgotten it to this day. She has dined out on that story for weeks and years.
Wow.
But yeah, that is the ferocity of commitment that you make. You are a professional, you make a commitment, and you try the best that you can to honor that commitment. And I think that was a very valuable lesson that my parents have given me.
Another fantastic takeaway for all of us, ferocity of commitment. Commit yourself, stick to it, and stay with it. I mean, if Anita can do it through childbirth, we can do it from anything else. Anita, I also read somewhere that you use the energy of anger in your favor. Today, all of us, there's a rising wave of anger, frustration, of dismay, especially among artists, because if you remember that little beautiful cartoon that my student Sahana made, and you tweeted about it, about even the dabba wala being ahead of dancers. So there is this anger that is, bubbling in the artist world. But you have said that you have used the energy of anger in your favor. What do you mean by that?
See, we talk about navarasas. We try to do navarasa, but we are told in our life, be calm, be pleasant, have shantam, have this. No, we are a composite of all these emotions and so much more. And every emotion has a use. If you're angry, if you're enraged, if you're furious, that's also a very powerful energy, Ananda. It's a very powerful energy to harness. Now, in anger, you can say things that you may regret. So I would say the anger should be tapped as a kind of a force. It should be tapped like as much as you have anger, or you have vira, you have courage, or you even have pride, because all of us need our egos. We need our pride to be artists. And all this subservient, erasing yourself doesn't work. So I feel every rasa, including bibhatsa, has to have its place. So I never say shove something under the carpet, pretend that you're at peace with yourself. Most of us haven't a clue about, how the next years of our life is going to unfold. Can you imagine somebody making a 5-year plan in 2015? Who knew 2020 would end up like this, right?
All of us are wrong.
So along with confusion, fear, paranoia, envy, jealousy, why not anger? Why not use? Because it's a very active force. It's an active force. So we can channel it.
Use it, channelize it positively.
That's what I say. Channel that force.
Channelize it positively. Your motto, life's motto, has always been go out and face the storm. What do you mean by that?
Yes. My mother, my grandmother, they all have said, uppa chakraya karayarthukku. So are you salt or sugar to melt in water?
Powerful women behind you.
Very, very powerful. So I had no film star role models, my dear. They were all in my family. So you can't fight every battle. You have to pick your battle. You have to know when to lie quietly, when the storm, then stand up, see what is left. There can be debris around you. But then you have to decide how to proceed. So if you're going to fight every battle, you're going to run out of energy. But that there are some battles worth fighting. And so that's why you find me now very vocal for dance, for dancers, for artists, because I think it's a battle worth fighting.
Worth fighting. It's important, especially at this stage in our lives. It's very important to get the community together and, embrace the community and live, work for them. And I think you're doing a great job of being the leader there. Anita, I see your path littered equally with triumphs and heartbreaks. And yet you have marched on as this daring thinker and cultural pioneer. And you're a loving mother to 3 children. Oh, come on, you forgot your 3rd baby.
Oh, my baby, my 20-year-old baby.
Yes, that's what I said. Hold her on, Nartaki. Okay, a quick backstory here. I still remember before Nartaki happened, or maybe it had just happened and I hadn't got my copy on, hadn't got my hands on it. I remember going out. You youngsters out there, you have no clue. You have every answer at the end of your fingertip or fingernail. But those days when we were all growing up, we had access to information was like gold, like diamonds. If a guru had to give you an address of a presenter, you had to be nice to them for a long time. And there was this guru who didn't share the address of a curtain maker. And at that point of time, I remember Nartaki was a miracle that happened in the world of dance. Suddenly, all this information that everyone held close to their chest was available. It was, as I call it, the dancer's almanac. Everything was available. So how did you come to do that? I mean, how did you just open up it just completely changed the paradigm of information flow in dance?
The aha moment for Nartaki came during my last few months in New York, because Rajiv Gandhi was now campaigning for re-election as prime minister. So the American networks were going to come to India to do a whole series of political stories, but they also wanted soft stories. And one of the things they wanted to do in the soft stories in New Delhi was to interview Yamini Krishnamurthy. Right. So they tried to call the Indian consulate, they tried to call the Indian embassy. Nobody had her number. Nobody had a contact number. So they called me because I was in broadcasting. So, at that time, there's no all these cell phones. So I booked a trunk call to my aunt in Delhi. And I said, I need to get the phone number of Yamini Krishnamurthy. She said, okay, give me 2 days. She got it. She called me 2 days. She got it and she called me back. And I said, it's taking 2 days to get the number of one of the great divas of our dance.
Absolutely.
And why don't our embassies have the list of these great performers? And that is the seed. And I remember, Ananda, when I went to Delhi to the Sangeet Natak Academy, the ICCR, the Department of Culture, and I asked them for their addresses, they gave me a 4-page, kind of very modest kind of a thing. This is all we have. And they told me clearly, madam, why are you taking the trouble? We are bringing this directory out in 6 months. We're going to bring out the directory. Okay. 30 years ago.
Right.
So I never thought of it as being radical, revolutionary. I just thought it needs to be done.
Right.
And the needs to be done is what has always propelled me. And one thing I've always done is I've walked the talk. If I need to be done, I have to put my money where the mouth is. If I don't have the money, I'll get the money. Right. I will go and beg and plead. I went to my father. My mother was saying, "Enna pannindrukke nee dance aadradhukku badila idellam pannindrukke. You're getting old. Typical mother, no? My father said, okay, this is what you want. Give me the budget. Printing, publication, design, everything. Give me a budget. And let me tell you what I can do and whatever. So when the Nartaki came out, I only did 1,000 copies. It was sold out in 6 months.
Tell me about it. I had a problem getting it.
I said, my God, one more edition in 2007. And then, of course, the world changed. It's become digital, email and everything. So it was just like, okay, that's the way that, this is what we're going to do. And online. So what you see now is a 20-year-old Nartaki baby that actually is 27 years old, if you want to think of her first avatar.
Right. So which brings me to the point that, we've all been saying constantly that dance, though we are trained intensely and immersively to be performers, we need to go beyond that performance space and embrace dance beyond performance, because that's when dance becomes 360 degrees and it becomes your life. So Nartaki, I think, brought not only for you a different dimension, but for all of us in the dance field. Like I just saw a comment from Priya Murle, who said she remembers Nartaki with those 2 bells, and I still have my dog-eared copy somewhere with all the markings in it. Lots of darts coming your way, lots of people attacking you, and when you set out of the set paradigms, there's always going to be, the backlash that we talked about, dartboard. How do you deal with that?
I think that one has to be prepared for this. That's number one. Second, I've always used sport as a metaphor in my life. My parents were very keen that we learn sports, because they said it will teach you how to win and lose gracefully, which the arts don't teach you. Yes. So I would use it as a metaphor of, the tennis players use the wall as wall practice. So they take a racket and a ball, and they keep hitting at the wall, and the ball keeps coming back, and the ball keeps coming back, and it keeps coming back. And no matter how hard you hit it, it's always coming back. So in a sense, you decide, are you going to be the wall that's going to be hit all the time? Or are you going to become the tennis player with a racket? Now going to see where can you volley, where can you smash, where can you hit, where can you, serve an ace, and where can you hit a cross-court forehand winning passing shot? So that is where you take it. You take that way of saying everybody's criticizing me, but you say it's okay because they're criticizing you because you're doing something, saying something, meaning something that you are worth either speaking about or being talked about. So in a sense, I turned it around and I said, what exactly are they saying? And here, Ananda, I want to bring back the idea of a feudal attitude. I lost my college election on one of the main manifestos of, she has everything. She can talk, she can debate, she can dance, she's good at her studies, and she comes in a car. No, she comes in a car. Okay. So the girl who won was also very competent, but she has everything, and she comes in a car kind of attitude. I never felt in the US, because you are who you are and what you make of yourself. But we have that, we carry that in India, especially in the arts. And we feel that those of us who are born into what we feel privileged, silver spoon in their mouth and all that, can just have their career paths laid out for them. It's not true. It's not at all true. You put your bare foot on that stage once, twice maybe, through contact and influence. If you cannot have a 50-year career that I can say I have in the arts, if you don't have something to say.
Correct.
So you cannot sit there and devalue somebody for who I am, for which I make no apologies.
Absolutely. So I tell you can't choose to be born in the family. So you don't need to apologize for who you are. or where you
Yes.
come from. But coming
Never
back to
shrink yourself.
tennis,
Yeah.
coming back
Yeah.
to tennis.
Yes.
Friends out there, you all think we're great friends. We can't be laughing, we're chatting, we can even sip wine together. There are times when this great friendship is tested immensely. These are the times when two people meet across the court, Federer and Nadal. Roger Federer is my god, and Rafael Nadal is Anita's fourth child. So you can imagine, you can imagine what happens when this fan club face-off happens. There's so much emotion flowing on the WhatsApp. It's more than Federer and Nadal fighting.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so this is the fun that we have, the fun the dancers can have is something that I want you to remember, that we can be the greatest of friends, but we can fight over Federer and Nadal. And hopefully at the end of this crisis, when Federer and Nadal hopefully meet somewhere, Anita,
Rafa will beat
those
Rafa
matches.
will beat Fed,
No.
and he will also get to number 20. Yes, andale, vamos, Rafa, vamos. They'll both be at
but
20.
we are not sitting in the same. We are not sitting together. We are going to do social distancing, unless we'll have a fight there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. This has been fantastic. Your whole story of who you are, of this fantastic personality. Now we're kind of coming close to the Manodharma section.
Okay.
So Manodharma is a section that we have on two parts. Part one is we'll ask you questions, and part two is I'll come to it. So part one, you're a compulsive world traveler. Which corner of the world would you have wanted to be locked down in, preferably?
Want to go back to my ancestral village in Tirukurungudi. Clean, calm, quiet.
And with the
that
kolam.
Right now.
And with the kolam.
Yes.
Yeah, the most inspiring music concert that you've ever been to?
Kitaro, the Japanese composer in Singapore.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. Kitaro, his music sustained me through my years of separation in 89 and 90. I was just listening. And those times it was only CDs that you bought. So Kitaro, yes.
Okay. If the components of the dance scene today were apps on your phone, which are the ones you're uninstalling now?
Bharatanatyam Margam goes first for me.
Okay.
Natyarambha exercises stay for me.
Thank you.
because I am actually having fun with that.
Thank you so much. Right.
I will not delete music apps, because music has been able to survive wonderfully through this crisis. I think I would not delete Audible, which is books that I can read, but I would delete all these other movie apps, yoga apps, and wellness apps, because I've realized one thing in this, that we are the architects of our own well-being.
Right.
And this is something I want to tell dancers, Ananda, if you would allow me now, is that if we don't take care of our bodies, that has been echoed by others, you're a dancer now and forever, even when you stop dancing. And to take care of your body, your health, your breath, your weight, your appearance, dress well all the time. Dress well with a pride. So people say, you must be a dancer. So I think, so lots of apps will go. I think this is going to be a time for us to redefine many things. As much as I adore Bharatanatyam, we have to relook at the form in a very new and fresh way.
And I'm very glad you raised this, because yesterday my friend Sneha, my student Sneha, and I were chatting, and we were saying, how do we repackage and rejuvenate the arts for this online presence? Something we'll take back from here. Third question for you, fourth question, I think. You're a big fashion icon. So what would your fashion statement or choice for the Met Gala be? The theme for 2020 is about time, fashion, and duration.
I would have a Kanjivaram sari. Maybe I would have a 9-yard sari, reimagined as a long trailing drape. And I would
Wow.
have a Kanjivaram sari and maybe mixed with handloom from either Andhra, Kerala's beautiful white, and Kanjivaram, Tamil Nadu's, and make it into something which is like a pantsuit, but with great panache. So think
Fantastic.
of a sari, think of a pantsuit, like a jumpsuit, one thing, and just have trails of gold and silk. And that's
okay,
what
all you
I
fashion design. Fashion designers, you get going right away there. I know her grandmother played tennis in a 9 yards. So maybe the next challenge on Natyarambha is dance in a 9 yards. Okay, your last question. A game with Nadal or a conversation with Andal, who's right behind you?
Oh my God. What I would do is
not being fair.
Yes. I think a conversation with Andal, if I could, with Nadal sitting at my feet and learning who Andal is. Because after all, he's
that's a lovely one. That's a lovely image. Okay. Then the last section of Manodharma, we have 3 words: metaphor, mood, and mudra. So what is your metaphor for editor?
Editor.
It could be words also, metaphor. Okay, someone who's being attacked all the time.
Okay, editor. Ruthless.
Oh, okay, perfect. Elbows up. Elbows up.
Elbows up. Amma. Lakshman sir.
This is easy. Just say it. Lakshman sir. Elbows up, which means elbows up is what we all do. It's otherwise called Natyarambha. Natyarambha. Okay. Anita says.
Anita says. Okay. Live life like a sport. Go out there, play the game. Doesn't matter if you win or lose.
Perfect. Okay. The next Manodharma section is mood. You can do it with Abhinaya. Instagram concerts. Okay. Young Anita on her Arangetram day. Okay. Wine. Okay. The last section of Manodharma is mudra. Okay. And here we have for you life in New York. A mudra. What about this one? What about something you used to have this? You used to have something like this. I remember that. Okay.
That was if you want hailing a taxi cab.
Yes.
Okay.
But I like this better. Okay. Neo Bharatam. A mudra for Neo Bharatam.
Braiding.
Okay. And the last one, mudra for boxed. Mudra for boxed.
Okay. For boxed. Think.
Okay. Well, boxed is something that Anita is set in motion, is going to happen in a few minutes at 12 o'clock. So don't go away and watch her on Nartaki Web. So with that, Anita, thank you so much. But we must take some questions now. But before questions, I think what we should do is I want you to leave us with some advice, as it were, for us. Let's look at life lessons through your life quickly, if we can run it. We are at 11:45, so maybe a few minutes and then a few questions, and we can wind up.
I think that I really want to talk to not my generation or your generation, Ananda, we're close together, but I really want to talk to the young, because they are those who are watching, and it's all of you who are going to be able to carry this tradition or art in whichever way forward. The most important thing that I want to say is, please don't be lazy anymore. The world is watching. world is watching. Don't think that you can just cut and paste work anymore just because it's so freely available on the internet. I'm going to give you just one example of an Ardhanarishwara composition that was danced in Bharatanatyam. And somebody takes the music and says, oh, I'm not copying the choreography, I'm taking only the music. And she does belly dancing to it. But whatever she does to it. But you mean to say you want to take the music and you're saying you haven't touched the choreography? 80% of classical dance depends on the music and the lyrics. So if you cannot separate one after the other, and what you're doing is stealing, and it's dishonest. So when the world is watching, you have to start thinking for yourself and not start imitating, but actually getting inspired by whoever you admire, whoever you watch that you like, but start creating your own work. I want dancers to know, dancers, you've got to know how to laugh. Laugh at yourself and laugh. A laugh and a smile that doesn't stop at your shoulders. Don't pretend. You've got to have a generous heart to laugh. There's so much to laugh about. You know, you aren't you and I are not walking around pretending we are gods and goddesses. We are not.
No, we are not. We
came in and solo, and we're going out that way.
Questions. So these are the quick questions, and you can take just a few minutes to answer them. From Kiran Subramanian, who according to you is a successful dancer? In a few words, not very long.
A successful dancer, I would say a successful artist. Somebody who has been able to move me. I don't want to take a name, but I want to talk about quality. And I want to talk because somebody who's been able to move me and to be able to create within me even one moment of adbhuta, like an adbhuta where I feel like I've been able to be transported. And I think, and if that moment stays with me the morning after, because we are bombarded with so much, for me then, no matter what else has happened in that performance, for me, that has been a moment of huge success. So dancers, performers who can awaken that sense of adbhuta, because we are so cynical today. It's so difficult to get us to be impressed. And yes, for me,
the quality of a good dancer, I won't call it successful dancer, a good dancer is the quality to be able to move at least one person in the audience to remember you the next morning with that sense of adbhuta. Okay, small question coming up from young dancer Sneha Venkatramani, who says, if you're taken to teaching dance, what is something you would have taught your students in addition to dance, which you feel is missing in dance education presently?
Well, Sneha, I know you, so hi, thank you for tuning in. What I chose not to teach, but each time that I contracted and hired dancers for a production, and they could be as many as 18 to 20, which in a sense is like a class, I would teach them everything other than dance, which meant they started with yoga, then Tai Chi, then they did Silambam, then they did Kalari, then they did theater, then they did improvisation, they did spatial awareness, they did partnering, they did so many things that we need dancers to learn, but are not taught in dance class.
Essential cross-training, important.
Really cross-training. And to tell dancers to go out and cross-train themselves. You want to go swim. You want to go hiking, hike. Because to put the body in play is what I would encourage dancers to do, not to only do dance.
Okay, there's one last question, which is from Srinivas Murthy, who's an architect and who's a sitar player, and he's one of the early Speak McKay volunteers. And he says, can both of you name one temple or temple complex that inspires you as dancers, and why that temple? I won't take both because Srinivas, I'll talk to you later on the phone, but I'll ask Anita to answer this. Why that particular temple? Why does that particular temple inspire you?
I can take two, one that's living and one that's abandoned. I would say Srirangam, and I would say Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat. Yeah. And they both have been extremely inspiring because you see a certain breadth and scope of vision at a time that you didn't think people could dream like that. It is the way that we gaze at the pyramids in Egypt. And Srirangam has the most fabulous living tradition, many stories, which never fails to inspire me. Angkor Wat, again, for how deep the culture from South India has gone and really permeated and taken root. It is a fabulous masterpiece to vision and scale. So I would say
And
those would be the two.
I danced there 4 nights in a row in 1997 for the Ramayana
Oh, you
Festival,
lucky
long
girl.
ago, with many of my students there. So thank you so much. I mean, there's so many takeaways, Anita Ratnam, Dr. Anita Ratnam, my dear friend, my tennis, what shall I say? We fight over tennis, we fight over Nadal, Nadal and Federer. But thank you so much for being here at Punarnava. I will conclude with a beautiful Tamil verse by Kripa's party, my students' party, Dr. Rajalakshmi Srinivasan, who shared this just this morning. Pardon my Tamil. பிறையாய் தேய்ந்த பின் முழுமதியாய் உவகை பொங்க ஒளிர்கின்றாய் இடர்நிலை கடந்த புத்துணர்வு கொள்ளும் நேரம் இதே நமக்கு. Meaning, in these dark times also, let us continue to renew and regenerate and rejuvenate on our eternal journey from darkness to light, like the moon that continuously waxes and wanes to be that full moon every month, showering its light of happiness, light, energy on us. With that note, thank you, Anita, once again. Thank you, all of you, for joining me at Punarnava at Natyarambha.